Thank you so much, Damilola, for joining the We Don't Play podcast show today. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be on the show today. Thank you for having me here, Flavor.
Anytime. You're most welcome. I'm so excited that I'm having you here. Shout out to Audrey. I've been able to connect with you through the platform, and you never know who you connect with until this happens. So it's a blessing, and I really appreciate you for being here. And I know you're going to really bring a lot of gems for people to take in. So before we even do that, please let the audience know, the listeners know who you are, what you do, and what's going on in your life at the moment.
Not a problem. So my name is Dami, for short. Also go as Dami the CEO on Instagram. I'm the host of Wealth in Christ podcast, a podcast where the goal is to show people that it's possible to become financially free without compromising their faith. So I have interviewed about 30 to 40 entrepreneurs, in the Christian faith to show that, people have already done it. So if they have done it, they were able to trust God through their entrepreneurship journey, the ups and downs. It's possible for those like us, like someone like me, and people who will come after me to also tap into that same faith and, accomplish their goal without compromising their faith.
That's beautiful. I like that you said that, compromising your faith, and without compromising your faith, to be specific, because when people think about money, when they think about wealth, they're like, oh, I need to do something so dynamic that it's going to take me away from my faith. And it's really not the case, because people really have to understand that it's how you are, out of the intents of your heart is where people see you. So if you have good intent, they'll see that. If you have bad fruits, they'll see it. So that was really a good thing that you mentioned there, because, one of the questions that I wanted to find out from you is, is having money evil, or is the love of money evil? Like, what is the striking factor between those 2 points?
Thank you for that question. I get this question a lot, and I deal with this a lot on my platform. And the scripture you're referring to is 1 Timothy 6:10 for the listeners who are watching. Is the key word in that scripture is the love of money. Is the love of money. It's not money is evil. And the reason why that's so important to understand the love of money, because, as Christians, as believers, we're supposed to basically follow 2 commandments, which is to love God with all our hearts and love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And if you love money, you put in money in a place where God's supposed to be. One, you already feel the first commandment. You're not loving God. And it's impossible to say you love God. It's possible to say you love God and not love your neighbor. So they both go hand in hand. Both the commandments go hand in hand. If you love God, you will love your neighbor. But if you love money, like I introduced myself, you would do things at any means to get the money. Whether it's robbing, whether it's stealing, whether anything to get that money, and money becomes your master and your ruler in life.
That's big. As you're mentioning this, what came to my mind, what I was thinking was, money is a spirit. And it's really, that's why they say there's bad money and there's good money. Sometimes we say those things and we don't know what it means. But, good money is going to be good money regardless. Bad money is always going to be bad money. And, if money comes fast, it's going to go fast too. If it takes longer to come, it will take a long time to go. But people like that shortcut route. So is there a reason why people prefer that shortcut route as opposed to the long-term route, especially when people are thinking about bills, demands, and all those responsibilities in the way?
I definitely think there's 2 ways to look at this. Like you said, money that comes quickly, can go quickly. And also, if you're building consistently, you're consistently showing up for your business or showing up at your work, and getting income and you're investing, that's a long term. But I wanted to make sure that people don't see it as, let's say, for example, you get blessed, you have an uncle or somebody who blessed you with some type of wealth, that's what we consider as quick wealth, because, you didn't really have to work from it. I think the confusion when it talks about quick wealth versus long term is that oftentimes is the financial literacy that's missing. Because when you're building money, slowly, you're consistently adding, you see the dollar value going up compared to if I just give you $1 million. you're not gonna value that $1 million because you didn't work for it. You don't understand the principle of what money is. You don't understand that you have to save to invest. You have to be the master of this money. You gotta tell money what to do for you. And I feel like that's a big difference between those who gain money quickly versus those who gain money, over time. Just to quickly wrap up, that's why they have the lottery curse. The reason why the lottery curse is because people get this large sum of money, and because they don't have that financial literacy, understand, okay, I have this money, this is what I can do with it. This is how I can continue to invest in it. This is certain type of entities or, trust or, people I need to get in trust with partnership with so that this money can continue growing. People see this money, okay, I'm going to buy the Lamborghini. They buy the Lamborghini, they buy the Benz, they must like, oh, I need this, that, da. Before you know it, they back to square zero. And that's the financial literacy that's important. It's not so much about the time, because the more you show up, the more you practice your craft, and you walk in the purpose that God called you. It can be 6 months, it can be 10 years, it can be 50 years. But all that matters is about you walking your God-given purpose.
That is so true. Thank you for bringing that up. Because people, like you said, lottery curse, and I was like, yeah, some people, when they get the lottery, they don't even think about putting 10% of tithe into that doesn't even cross their mind. They don't think about paying for bills. They don't think about, taking care of themselves or putting that investment in a trust fund. Something that's going to generate over time. Because when you see all that money, you're like, oh, all the things I wanted to do since I was a child, I can do it now. And you're like, what about 10 years from now when the value of that $1 million is maybe 800,000? You don't know the value. So if you can be able to put that in perspective, it can really change a lot for you. So I really appreciate what you've said. And the importance of understanding that, God isn't against us being financially free, but he's against us trusting money more than we trust him. And just like you said, the two major commandments, when Jesus was on earth, he said, love God, with all your heart, all your mind, all your spirit, and also love your neighbor. So now when we talk about intentionally loving God and the importance of understanding God and being financially free, what are your thoughts on that trust part? Because people trust money before they trust God, and it's supposed to be the other way around. But what are your thoughts on that statement?
That's definitely a great question, and I usually answer it as this. Money is a tool. Once you start learning, you start investing in yourself, and you start reading, you understand that money is a tool. As you mentioned, money is a spirit. So but knowing that money is a tool, is a spirit that you can control, because we have the power. God gives us the power, the authority to say things to be said. Do things the way we have that same power that God does to bring things to life. And being that's the case, and understanding that money is a tool, you understand that money can only solve money problems. Oftentimes people forget that you can make this $1 million, you can make this 100 mil, 6 figures, what everybody's chasing nowadays. You can get that and still feel accomplished. I was listening to this clip from this podcast with Mike Tyson, and he's basically saying that the most peaceful he felt was when he was in jail for 2 years. And this is a man that won 30 million in one fight. So just imagine, he got 30 million in one fight, but he's telling the best time he ever felt in his life is when he was broke and when he did not have that money. Because oftentimes I said people don't understand that money can only solve money problem. It does not take away your depression. It does not take away your bad relationship that you have with your family member, your friends. It does not take away your bad characteristic of greed. It does not take away your, you acting out, when you're acting out of not having self-control. Those are things that money can't solve. Money can take care of your bills. Money can take care of your mortgage. Money can take care of you buying the latest car or the latest jewelry, getting the best doctors. But even with that, money can't heal you. Only God can truly heal you. So it's important to understand the perspective how money works, and always understand that God has control of everything. He doesn't need money for you to be healthy. He doesn't need anything to do what he needs to do in your life. Money has a limit, and God doesn't have any limits at all on what He can do in our life.
Amen to that. I really appreciate that you brought that up because, when people think about it, it's like there is that focus point that they have to be on, and as they stay focused on that, they're going to get what they're looking for. Because we think about money, like you said, it's a resource. You can't solve that with depression, and that's so true. Because athletes, actors, you hear why they're committing suicide, and you're like, these are people who have millions of dollars, probably billions, and they're not satisfied. Their homes are in wreckages, and they're splitting apart. Like, you wonder, is money actually the problem? Because if there was no money, would they still have that problem? That's what I usually come to think about sometimes,
You're definitely right. And I guess to add, I know some people are going to say, that someone's going to say that money does buy happiness. And I would say that money doesn't buy happiness in the sense that money makes your life easier. Because once you have a certain amount of money, you're able to do certain things without worrying about the consequence or overthinking, can I pay my bill for the next month, or can my mom travel somewhere, can my mom get this operation. But at the same time, all that feeling is just there. Like, once that's done, once you spend that $1 million, once you get the new laptop, once you get this new jewelry, it's old. There's a new laptop coming out, coming out next year. Like, I bought this MacBook. There's a very new MacBook coming out. You buy a new car, there's a car coming out. And people need to understand that, yes, having money is great. Like, it's great. It does a lot for you. It can change your family tree. Even when you're talking about in terms of Christianity, it can help push the gospel forward. It's hard to preach the gospel to someone, and saying that God's gonna bless them, God's gonna do this for them, but you're not helping them with their current need that you can currently help them with. They're hungry, feed them. They need clothes, give them clothes. Oftentimes we think we just need to preach all these things, yes, but you also need to give. You need to also show the love that God has given us. That's why the second commandment is important. It says love your neighbor as you love yourself, and that's how you can do it. Once you have that kind of money, that kind of finance, you can bless people. You can pay off people's mortgage. You can pay off people's college tuition. Those are ways money can go. But all I said, it still goes back to God, because at any day, like you mentioned, money can go. We have athletes, they go broke. They commit suicide, and the money's gone. Like, the money's completely gone. But when you trust in God, and you understand that He's going to be the most consistent factor in your life, friends or family will go, based on the money you have. But as long as you have God and you believe that you're walking in His purpose, that's important. It's not so much about how much money you're making. It's more of understanding, am I walking in His purpose? Because you can make 6 figures, you can make $1 million, you can make $1 billion, and still not be walking in your purpose. I think nowadays in society we chase after prices and income, and luxury life than living our own purpose. And that's why you see so many people so frustrated, complaining that, my job is not doing this, my job is horrible. No, you're probably in the wrong place. You're probably not walking in your purpose. And it's important that once you walk in your purpose, I'm not saying that when you start working in your purpose, it's going to become easy. That's just going to go through the ups and down. But that's where God comes in place. God is the one going to give you that peace, that joy to guide you and remind you that, yes, you're going through this, but I'm here for you. I'll be there for you. You're going to get this. I didn't give you this vision for no reason. God doesn't give you a vision and doesn't have a plan for you. Jeremiah 29 said that He created us. He knew us before we was formed. So it's important for people to understand that, who God is to have that relationship with God, not just, what your pastor said or what some Instagram person said. And even just hearing this conversation, I want people to actually take the time to truly build that relationship with God and know who they are in God. Because once they understand that, once they get the money or they don't get the money, they will still able to go on and still continue to see things in a different perspective instead of being defeated and thinking like, oh my gosh, the world's coming down on me, no one likes me, da 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 da.
That is so true. Thank you for highlighting that, because that is the first step into getting into wealth in Christ. Because just like your podcast is called Wealth in Christ Podcast, and people listen to those episodes because they're trying to self-identify, they're trying to self-evaluate, they're trying to analyze, they're trying to self-realize. Like, they're trying to really figure out, what is my purpose? Why am I here? People try different jobs, different businesses, travel different states. They're like, well, I'm leaving to Florida because nothing's for me over here in Ohio. People just leave. They just pack up and go. And you're like, if you just stay for 2 more days, you could see a completely new shift. But people don't wait for those things because they're like, where's the money? Where's the money? Where's the money residing? And that way you're losing out on the opportunity to actually grow. So thank you so much for that. Going into entrepreneurship, we're in this age now where everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, a coach, a business owner, and it's like the new thing. So would you say, does everyone have to be an entrepreneur versus working and investing in an asset? Especially when you think about class. What are your thoughts on that when it comes to entrepreneurship in that same regard?
Actually, I appreciate that question. That's something I've been trying to create a lot of content about. Like you said, a lot of people are thinking entrepreneurship, becoming a business owner is the way of the future. Everybody wants to work on their own time, wake up their own time. But I feel like people fail to understand the responsibility that comes with being an entrepreneur, the responsibility that comes with a business owner. Not everything is full on you. You don't have that consistent paycheck. A paycheck, if you completely quit your job, you're not doing any side gig. Now everything's relying on you. Especially if you have kids. Now you gotta make sure you make a sale. Now you gotta make sure you're always producing content. Now you gotta make sure you're always having an event. And all these things, is great. But when you put it into perspective, not everyone is made for that. That's why some people get burnt out. You will see people go like three months, they post it, they tag it, they go on live, and before you know it, they burn out. I've seen people that started podcasts and, they're going strong, and I'm just like, okay, this is not who they really are. You can tell when someone is doing something for the wrong intention, because you see how they go about it, when things doesn't go the right way for them, they just quit. This is not for me. So it was all about just having the money. And in regards to, and the funny thing is that, the most millionaires created come from 9 to 5. Those teachers, lawyers, CEO is an employer. As most people may not think of it, being a CEO of a company as an employer. And I think for the other one, engineers, those careers, because of the income that you create. I know some people might say teachers don't make that much money, but when you get to a certain level at teaching for a certain year, you start to make 6 figures. And once you start making that kind of 6 figures, you're able to invest more. You can buy into properties, you can buy into stocks, and those are things that, is not so much easier to do when you're trying to build that income on your own. You don't have that everything's on you. And if you stop working or the system breaks down, you don't make no money. Compared to having 9 to 5, you can still rely on that paycheck. That paycheck to continue to come and use that money to invest. I'm gonna share this story. I'm in part of this trading group chat, and one thing that the leader in the chat, he said, and it kind of stood out to me. I'm just like, wow, I want to do this for my kids. And basically, it was this guy, I believe he was a firefighter or he was a cop. And, he was investing, for 20, 30 years as he's working, and he eventually passed away. But what made the story so great is that when he passed away, he set up the investment portfolio he had, which was basically stock portfolios, and, certain stocks give you dividends. So dividends is basically, you get paid for owning a stock, a share of a company. And the amount, so he has 3 kids. So every year since he has died, I don't know if it's still happening, but every year since he died, the kids are guaranteed to make $60,000 passively. So when you think of $60,000, that can take care of your mortgage, that can take care of your every day to day. Because what he did, his kids are able to live that kind of lifestyle. Oftentimes we think we need to make 6 figures. And the funny thing is that people need to understand that only 6% of people actually make 6 figures. It's not something that actually really happens. Like making 6 figures, as much as we entrepreneurs or people on social media, like, oh, you gotta make 6 figures. 6 figures is really hard to get. It's not something that just happens overnight. It's not something that, oh, I can take a course and it's guaranteed. No, and even when it's like, you take certain courses, the big thing that is popular now is getting into tech. But even with that, it comes with certain pros and cons. So it's important for people to look at the pros and cons of, whether they want to become an entrepreneur, whether they want to be a 9 to 5, because they both have their pros and cons. And you can become a millionaire through both ways. But I want people to understand the statistics. People usually go bankrupt, especially business, after the 5th year. Most people don't make it to the 2nd year of business. So it's important to understand that, fund is getting tight. Inflation rates going up, interest rates are going up. Those are things that you want to consider. The government is not giving out loans as it was in 2020. PPP loan is not that easy to get. So I think people to put that into perspective. And a lot of these entrepreneurs that you're following or, influencers, I want you to really do a good dive into their background. Actually know who they are. Because a lot of people, they do a lot of fake stuff. And it's important to not get caught up in the scams, because a lot of people, like you said, are coaches and they are influencers and they're charging you crazy prices. But at the same time, they say they're for the culture. I don't know how you can be for the culture and you're charging people crazy amount of prices. Don't even understand the point of investing in yourself, but at the same time, you have to be mindful of your audience. Because some people they pray for people like you. Like there's one influencer and I actually followed what he said. He basically said between 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. he posts certain content, for people who are really desperate to, they want to make that 6 figures. They want to become that million. Between that time, his team is posting certain content. So when you watch it and you're thinking that late at night, like, oh, dang, my family's not doing this or da-da-da-da. You see that content, you see the ad, you buy the course. You buy this and that. And before you know it, you have some people that they build up all of this information, and they're not applying it. A lot of people are the smart, they have all this information, how to do stocks, real estate, name it. They know everything. They know who to go to, but they're not doing anything with it. And I just want to say, what are you going to do entrepreneurship? What are you going to do 9 to 5? Stick to it. Stick to it long enough so you can understand, say, okay, yeah, this is not for me. This is not something that I want to do. And once you understand that, it makes sense. Okay, I can go from entrepreneur to a 9 to 5 or 9 to 5 to entrepreneur. But it's important to focus on you and not worry about what everyone else is doing. You don't know what everyone else is doing. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. 30% of people who are making 6 figures or 100K are living paycheck to paycheck. But that's not something that people share a lot, that people know about. So it's important to understand all these different information, understand how to apply it to your own life.
You've dropped some major gems here, bro. You said 30% of 6-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck. When you hear that, it's like, what's the difference between that person and another person that's not making 6 figures? Because I'm thinking, if you're making 6 figures, that means your expenses, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, your expenses are more than the income. And people don't think about that, and they're like, oh, reduce your expenses, but you're like, no, I need this house, I need this car, I need this credit card, I need this subscription, I need to buy this, I need my nails done. Like, it's like the more expensive your life becomes, the more expenses you acquire. But why is it that millionaires and billionaires who are sustaining their money reduce on their expenses and maximize on their profits? Why is that?
I think it comes with a mindset. It's like still going back to that money just a tool. They don't allow money to control them. They don't allow money to be the reason why they make certain moves. Like they actually take time to calculate, their risk. They take time to surround themselves with people who can calculate their risk for them. We look at Warren Buffett and how he has grown to this huge investor. You see how long he's been holding certain stocks, through the ups and downs. Now we talking about Apple. Apple is a great company, but you look at 2010, 2008, nobody was saying Apple. He was all using Blackberries and all these sidekicks. Those are the phones and the things, because like those are the risks that comes with investing. There's nothing guaranteed. When you went to our real estate, it's as simple as your tenant not paying the rent and you not having that emergency fund to take care of that rent, or that rent to cover the mortgage for that month. Then what happens there? Or you have a business, you're in business with somebody, and for whatever reason the person doesn't want to do the business anymore, and now all the responsibility falls on you. Do you quit? Do you go for it? Where do you get the money from? So it's important to understand that as you're making more money, you're lowering your debt. You're lowering your debt and investing more. That's why right now we're going into recession, or the White House hasn't clearly said, but we're kind of in a recession, and it's because people over leverage themselves. People are buying properties or doing things that they can naturally afford. A lot of companies are cutting back on their enrollment of employees. Hiring new employees. Amazon, Tesla's cut back on people and starting to lay off people. So I want people to understand that yes, it's good to want a luxury life. Yes, it's good to want to live a certain way, but can your income provide for that? And if your income can't provide for that, how can you get there? Like, what do you have to do extra? Does that mean you have to invest? Does that mean that you have to start a side hustle like Uber? Does that mean you have to do something extra, work extra hours at work to get that income there? To get that income so you can live that certain lifestyle. You need to figure that out and make sure that you're not, overwhelmed. You don't want to be overwhelmed. That's the worst thing. A lot of people are making six figures and all these things, but they're not happy. They're overwhelmed. Like, it's just like they're making all this money, but they don't get time to spend it. So it's important to understand that. And like I said, it's really about the mindset. Like, you have this mindset, I want to retire at whatever age. How can I get there? Work backwards. You do reverse engineer. How much hours you have to work? How much money can you allocate to saving? What can you cut back? Certain things that we can cut back as we go into recession and things are going to continue to get worse is grocery shopping. Instead of, buying everything that's new in the supermarket, buy what you need. Meal prep. If you can't cook, find like a chef or, a restaurant where you can create like a deal with them where they can give you like a tray of something and you can split it up. Haircut, nails, get a nail cut, paint your own nails. All these different ways you can cut your expenses so you can still manage to live a lifestyle that you can want and still be comfortable. So that's what I would say to that.
Yeah, that is a major drop right there. Thank you so much for that. And one of the things that, I was thinking about when you were saying this is there are different ways to build wealth. But people think having a business will guarantee generational wealth. But if you think about it, back in the day, we didn't really have entrepreneurs like we have today. There were entrepreneurs, but I don't think they were classified as that. But I know you can tell us a lot more about how people can build different types of generational wealth income streams without having a business, especially when it comes to mindset. What are those thoughts that you have in mind that can really help people scale forward?
No, that's definitely a great question. I feel like, it first started with the mindset. I can't emphasize that so much. I can give people game or, drop gems on how you can do this and do that. But it first comes with mindset. Understand money is a tool. You understand that there are risks that's going to come with investing. There's a chance that you may lose money. It's going to be ups and downs. It's not going to go sky up. That's the reason why a lot of people who miss out on 2020 in terms of stock market, stock market going up, they've invested a lot of money in 2021 coming to 2022, and a lot of them are down. Their accounts are down because they bought high and they selling low. The key to any investing, whether you invest in any asset, is to buy low and sell high. Because once you do that, you gain some profit. And for those who want to get into, investing, the most simplest way you could is invest into ETF, which stands for Exchange I forgot what it stands for. Dang. Give me 1 second. Dang, I forgot what it stands for. Jeez. Exchange traded fund. I apologize. Exchange traded fund, and basically you can think of it as a pizza box. You know, when you go to Domino's, you go to Papa John's, you get different flavors, you get different meats on it. You can think of it the same way as stocks. You get different stocks. You know, you get different shit of different companies. You get Apple, you get Tesla, you get Boeing, you get Disney. You get different pieces of this pie. And instead of paying I don't know, I think Apple's at 150 something or 160 right now. Instead of paying 160 for one share of Apple, you're paying maybe like $20 or $30. But at the same time, you know, that $20, $30, probably like $400 in total. You invest into different companies. So you spend $400 on SPY, which is an ETF. You get exposed to all these different companies. And if one thing about the SPY and what makes it so great, over the last 40 years, people have averaged between 6 to 8% on an annual basis. So when you think about it, put it in perspective, so it's like if you start the year on January 4th and you put $100 in January 4th in SPY and you don't touch it, you know, to December 31st, you're guaranteed to make $6. Just like that. So just imagine when you put more money, $10,000, $100,000, depending on your income and your savings, that's $6 can be $600. That $600 can be $6,000, and that can be the difference between you becoming financially free and not becoming financially free. The secret, between the wealthy and the poor is the wealthy understand compound interest. The compound continue to build. That process of continuing to build. They're not so quick in trying to make that 100 mil one day or putting everything in one basket and praying and hoping that it blows up. No, they're all about taking it one day at a time. And that's one of the easiest way. The risk is very low because you're investing in almost 400 or 500 companies. 500 companies you invest in SPY. And there's other ETF, such as VOO, VTI, which is all similar. They're all similar, but just different company. This is with Vanguard. And so that's with stocks. That's one way you can get started and start building wealth is through stocks. And if you do what I would suggest people do, as you're buying into this ETF, it's important to understand the companies. Start looking at these ETF and okay, what companies are in this? Why are these companies in it? Do some research about Apple and understand, okay, Apple got a new MacBook coming out. Apple just had a great earnings season. Why is that? So now, not only you will have that ETF, you can, once you understand the company and the ETF, you can now go and say, I can go buy Apple share. And now you get more exposure because you understand it and you understand the risk that comes with Apple. And you invest in it now, you start getting 6 to 8%, invest in the ETF, you can get 10 to 20%. Because now you're investing in the actual company. But it all depends on your risk tolerance. I just want to make sure people understand it all depends on your risk tolerance. The more money requires more risk, especially when it comes to stocks, or it's opposite. But it all matters about the capital. More capital you have, you can take less risk, but don't think as a quick scheme to get rich. And in regards to real estate, there's different ways you can get into real estate, whether it's wholesaling, whether it's through rental. And wholesale, just to quickly explain these things as I'm going, wholesale is basically like a middleman. You find a property that someone's trying to sell, and you find a seller, and you basically make money off the difference of the price. So let's say you buy from one person for $50,000. You sell to another person for $60,000. Once everything is, transaction fees are taking place and everything, you can probably make $5,000 just off that one transaction. And then you have rental, which you was mentioning before as an example in terms of how people lose their business and things like that. So rental, when you have somebody, pay your mortgage, one of the great ways to get into rental is through the FHA loan, which you put 3.5% down. 3.5% down, and you buy a duplex or you buy, a triplex or a fourplex. Those are ways you can start building, some type of income and pay off your mortgage quicker. And a fun fact about real estate is that most millionaires actually have real estate in their portfolio because, in real estate, not only you get that income. You also get tax benefits. One of the tax benefits that you get into real estate is called depreciation taxes. So it's more for like apartment buildings. So let's say you have a 31 unit apartment building. Let's say it's worth $1 million. You can basically divide that the value of that property over a time period, and that will lower your tax that you pay per year. So that's the benefit of real estate. Why most people have it. What's some other ways? Invest into other people's business. That's one way. Being an investor. Those are ways you can angel investor. That's what the term. That's what I'm looking for. Angel investor are great ways to also build income, but it does come with a lot of risk because out of the 100 companies that you may invest in, only 5 will actually do something or turn into something because you're relying on people. You're relying on people's believe and vision, but you never know. Like I said, one partner can leave and the whole business can collapse.
Yeah.
Or one key employee can come and the whole business collapse. So it's important to do your research before you invest into or you go through that route. But that's pretty much those are 3 different ways. Stocks, real estate, business ways that you can definitely start building generation wealth. But it's important for me to say that don't rush the process. Enjoy the process. Take notes, understand, why did you fail? Why did this deal go wrong? And always look for help. Don't compare yourself to people. Don't look to put anybody down. There's a lot of food out there, a lot of money out there for all of us to win.
That is so true. When you talked about all of us winning, in my mind, what came to me was impact. And people focus on money before they focus on impact. But when you think about impact, that's what brings the money. So why is it important for people to focus on impact first rather than making money first?
That's a great question. It's important to focus on impact first. And then what came to my mind when you asked that question was, let's go back to the Bible. It's to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And oftentimes I get into my own deep thoughts. I'm just like, the reason why certain people are wealthy, they're Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, because they serve us, through their products. Amazon, you can get your groceries literally in one day now. You can get your books in one day. With Microsoft, you can type a letter, you can, write a whole document, a book. They provide a service that we value so much. Like, if it wasn't for them, who knows where we would be? And I feel like it's important to understand that the more you can serve somebody, the more somebody will want to see you do better. If I'm able to serve you now, okay, let's say you need somebody help with content creation, and I'm a person that's good at content creation. If I'm able to serve you in that aspect, when it gets to a certain point, the content start to go viral, and people are like, oh, who are you using, or who is helping with the content creation? You can say, oh, Dami is helping me. Another person will come, Favor, who else, who are you using? Oh, Dami. Before you know it, I can have tens or thousands of people, asking for my business, just because I was willing to serve you. And I feel like that's what people need to understand. We need to be able to serve others first. Once you're able to serve others first, people always want to be there for you. People always want to give you money. People always gonna want to help you in your own situation. Will help you achieve your own vision. But once you come with that mindset about like, oh, it's all about me. It's all about me getting money. It's all about this and that sort. Is that you do the opposite. You're not serving people. Now you have this mindset that you would take advantage of anyone and anything to get what you want. Which goes back to that same scripture we started, or 1 Timothy 6:10. But the love of money is the root of all evil. Because you would do dangerous things, whether it has to do with killing, stealing. You don't care. As long as you get that money in your bank, you drive the nicest car, you don't care because it's all about you. But when you're serving, you care about the world becoming better. You care about us moving forward. And this is why when people talk about, it's maybe controversial, talking about taxing the rich, I don't necessarily agree with that. Like taxing them to a certain amount where get rid of all building. I don't necessarily agree with that because they provide such a service to us that we all benefited from.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me. If I'm benefiting billions of people, and you're telling me that I can't enjoy my fruit of my labor because of that, I don't know what kind of world we're living in, because it's like it's a disservice to that person. Like, like I feel like it's a disservice to that person. Like, let's say you're blessing somebody, like you right now, you have this podcast, and you bless 1,000 people with the different guests you have, and someone now say, "Favor, you can't sign that deal of $1 million or whatever." That's selfish.
Yeah.
Because it's a selfish thing. I feel like people don't understand that, we're all here to serve one another in different aspects, whether it's being an entrepreneur, whether it's being a teacher, a lawyer. We all need to play our different roles to make this world a better place.
Yeah, I think so too. And setting that pace is really important for us, because once you set that pace, your children will see it, your family will see it, your loved one will see it. And that way they want to be like, I want to be like him, I want to be like her. And that's motivation enough for you to see them grow, because they're watching you from that perspective. And I love that you brought that up too. One of the major things that I want to highlight before we close is the faith aspect, because faith comes by hearing, but you also have to do the work. Faith without actions is dead. So if you think about the importance of having faith and looking at the bigger picture and one journey to build wealth, and there's one thing that you want to leave with the audience today, what would that be when it comes to creating wealth for their future?
There's a lot I can leave, but I guess one thing I will say, and I got this from one of my podcast guests, is trust his process. And what I mean by that is trust God's process. Because the way you may think, you going from A to B may, supposed to be, it may not be that way. You may need to go through certain challenges, certain valleys. You need to learn certain lessons, before you can achieve that goal. Somebody once said to me that the reason why people who, whose goal is become six figures or, make $1 million, that they don't earn that money because their goal or their purpose does not need that kind of money. Like, you don't need it. So why would God give you that responsibility? And if you do need it, are you being appreciative of what, God's currently giving you? Steve Harvey said, why would God give you more money if you're not appreciative of just that $50,000 that he's already given you, or that $100,000 job, when you complain like, oh my gosh, why am I here? No, trust the process. Understand why you're in this season. Understand, what are you supposed to learn? Understand, why, certain people are in your life. Once you understand that, which is all going back to trusting in his process, you will put things in a perspective that, okay, yeah, it's going to take some time for me to reach my goal. But at the same time, what's more important for me to reach my goal is me developing, is me growing, me getting closer to Christ, me understanding that money is just a tool. It's not something I just woke up, I'm pretty young. Not something I just woke up like, oh my gosh, money is a tool. No, it was a process. Like certain things, it was a process, like learning this thing. And I think it's important for people to understand. Trust God's process and all will be well.
Yeah, 100%. I believe that, and I 100% agree with that. This has been a beautiful podcast event, an amazing episode. I'm so glad that you're able to finally join and be part of the amazing community that we have at large all over the world. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you've been blessed. You've definitely received some gems. You've thought about some things differently, and I'm sure Dami has given you a challenge to take on this new week, take on this new month, and start something new, so that you can actually look back and you're like, thank God I actually bumped into this podcast, because without listening, you can't do anything. You need to listen and act at the same time. So I really appreciate you for being here. If there's any way they can contact you, let's say they want to connect with you, they want to hear more of your voice and hear your perspective, or anything that you have out there on the internet that they can access, what do you have available so we can have that available for them too?
No, definitely. For those who want to get, more understanding on how to get to the stock market, I have a free study guide, and you can get it on my website, wealthinchristbrand.com, and basically show you how you can start investing, without compromising your faith. In addition, you can follow me at Wealth in Christ on all social media platforms, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Those are ways you can definitely stay in contact with me. And I also want to say, thank you for this time and this opportunity. Favor, it was definitely a pleasure to share my story and share, my whole thought process. I truly appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime. I'm so glad. And I'm also looking forward to being on your podcast. So they also know that this is a two-way street. You know, this is something that we're doing to support your community and support mine too. Because if we can't support each other, then what are we here for? You know, we need to do this in a way, and like you said, you know, love your neighbor too. So this is the act of actually doing it. So what you're hearing is not just, oh, we're on a podcast. We actually are working behind the scenes, and we're making sure that you have an amazing experience at the end of the day. So this has been a blessing. I thank you so much again, Dami, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Anytime.